I have missed you, Mary. It's been a long time since we've been able to spend some time together. And,
yes, it has.
And I'm glad that you're doing well. Sounds like Florida was a good experience. And you're back home for a little while. Are you going back to Florida sometime soon?
1st of October.
1st of October, okay.
If not sooner.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm very excited this time to bring a couple students with me to meet you. And these students are both seniors. They're already doing a lot of great things with their education. Like right now, they're already participating in a university class, and they've both already been applying to the universities that they want to go to next. But this today is an opportunity to gain some wisdom and some understanding from Miss Mary Shepard. So I'm just going to hand it over to you ladies and let you start asking the questions.
So can you start by maybe telling us a little bit of your testimony and how you have come to know Christ?
I was raised in a Christian home. My mother was very, very faithful in her beliefs, and she had immense faith. My father died when I was 9, so she had a lot of responsibility in raising my 2 brothers and I. So I always knew about God, and I always thought that I was doing probably what I should, but I found that I wasn't. And as a young adult, I got off track pretty good and got back on later after having children of my own and realizing that I really needed God in my life. Even now, I'm learning at this age about God and Christ and what that means to our lives. And I tell you, He is amazing that He's put up with me, that He's continued to love me, that He continues to forgive me. My best friend just went through horrible cancer, had a month to live, and she is totally cancer-free. And if that's not a testament to prayer. So I'm learning about prayer. I'm learning about all of that. And it's pretty exciting because I'm old. And so to be having always had that background, but never really maybe having that close relationship with God is becoming vital to me now. I want to know Him better. I want to know what He wants, and I would like to improve who I am. Because I sure have disappointed Him a lot. But what's so beautiful is that He continues to take me back, and that's amazing.
You mentioned that your mom had immense faith. What were a couple of your specific memories that stand out that made you know that Mom has immense faith?
Every time I would say something to her about anything that I was having a problem with or didn't understand or didn't think it was going the way it should be going or my way, she would say, just turn it over to God. And I'd be like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. And I would be like, it must be so easy for her. Well, it couldn't have been because she had a lot of very difficult things. My brother got the chickenpox virus into his central nervous system, and they had to cut out a third of his brain. And he was a young adult with 5 children. And Mother retired from teaching special ed and took care of Dick for the rest of her life. And she lived to 96 because she had a purpose. And she always believed he was going to be fine. He was going to be normal. She wanted to go get him a driver's license. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. But she proved me wrong in a lot of ways. He didn't ever get a lot of his speech back. But her washer went out one time, and she was like, I was like, well, let me help you buy a new washer. And she was like, well, no, I prayed about it. And a couple of days later, she called and said somebody brought her a new washer. She didn't even tell them. So she had kind of that direct pipeline to God, I think. And bless her heart, I'm so grateful that she was my mother, because I acted out enough. If I'd have been raised in a non-Christian home, I probably would have been a real mess. Probably, because I was pretty hard-headed. So
So I've heard you've been a very successful woman. So tell us about that and how you carry your faith over into your career.
I started out in healthcare as an RN, and so that helped me understand how much I needed God, because there are times when you can't help a person, and or you see a lot of pain and suffering, or you see death, or you see whatever, and so there were a lot of examples, whether it was with pediatric surgery and children that had been abused, or children that just had heart problems, or you would see the pain and whatever, or whether it was working with alcohol and drug abuse clients that I did for a number of years, and seeing the real problems with that and how guilt can overwhelm people, and remorse and whatever, and or just the fact that they become so ill from all the chemicals or whatever. So during those times, you start trying to question more things. You start wondering, what's the purpose? What's my purpose? What are we doing here? And then when you're directing staff, because I always was in administrative positions, you want to know your staff. You want to know what they're capable of, maybe what they're not capable of. You want to try to help them grow into positions, maybe to go on into other fields of healthcare rather than where they're at or whatever. And so there's just a lot of questions come up. When I started the company that I most recently have had, it was a real walk of faith, because it was totally out of my wheelhouse of any skills that I thought I had. But I can now look back and see where God's hand was in every phase of every job I ever had, and why I needed to have this job 20 years ago so that I could do this later. Years ago, I went to the state of Texas and did audit reviews on grants, and they were applying for drug and alcohol grants. And used to read those grants and try to understand how you write grants and all that. And then when I ended up with my company and I had all those contracts, it was like, well, now this kind of makes sense, So how things just, he has a plan. And if we don't get in the way, and if we are open to his plan, it's amazing where he'll take you and what he will have you experience to help you later, or to help you help someone else. And so I try to listen to sermons. I'm not the best because I have a short attention span. But I try to hear something and go, well, that's something I probably ought to apply. And, try to do that. Or you read something in the Bible that, like, don't be anxious about anything. Well, that was a good one, because that didn't, I didn't know how to do that. But it finally made sense that he had it under control. I didn't need to worry about stuff. So in my last company, we would do competitive bids for our work. And I had my son and a person that was my partner. And they were both very competitive, and they always wanted to get every contract. And when they wouldn't, they'd kind of get upset. And I'd be like, don't worry about it. God's going to give us what we need. And that became the standard for the company. It was like, God's going to take care of it. And then I sounded like my mom. It was like, oh, just turn it over to God. He'll take care of it. And he did. We always had enough work. And if we were low in one location, production would be really good in a different one. It was amazing to watch. My accountant used to comment on how everything just stayed cost-wise, where our costs stayed equivalent to where the business was. The percentages didn't vary much. Well, that's not normal. And I would always hire to my weakness, and I had a lot of them. So identifying what areas you're weak in, it may not be as important as what areas you're strong in. Because if you have weaknesses that are real, like maybe you're not very smart. Like I don't think I'm particularly smart. Or maybe I don't do math well or whatever. Then I needed bookkeepers. I needed people who could take care of those numbers and she would labor over the books. I mean, looking for a penny, and I'd be like, I'll give you one. Well, you don't do that in accounting, but I would have. I would have just thrown a penny on the desk. So knowing where you need help to achieve whatever it is you're doing, whether it's working at Prodigy and developing programming and scheduling, or whether you're running cameras and, whatever it is you do, look at yourself and go, what is it that I don't like to do? What is it that I have a passion to do? Because you're going to be more successful if you've got a passion for something. If you're having to do something that you really don't like doing, you're not going to probably be very good at it, or you're going to be miserable. And I've only had 1 or 2 jobs, and I've had a lot of jobs, that I really was miserable in, and I won't do that again. Well, I hope I don't have to work much anymore, so, because I'm old. But anyway, that was kind of lengthy. I don't know if that answered what you were asking.
Oh, yeah, it did. So how do you have discernment and determine what his plan is? Because I'm very type A and like to plan myself.
Well, first you've got to know what his word says.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to know what the basics are, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you have to communicate. If you want him to be your best friend, you've got to talk to him. And you got to try to listen. I don't always hear I always tell him, you may have to speak loud, because sometimes I'm so hard-headed that I don't hear. Or I choose not to. I don't know which it is. But I think you'll know. You just know inside. Or if he lays something on your heart, he will leave it there, or he'll push on it until you probably choose to do it or say, I'm not doing it. I don't know. I'll give you an example, and this is not about me. I'm not trying to blow myself up here, but there's a person that dislikes me a great deal, really dislikes me. Mm-hmm. And God laid on my heart that I was supposed to do something for her for Christmas one year. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. Why would I be feeling this? Well, I know why. I mean, you just don't get this heaviness on your heart to do something unless it's directed, if it's a good thing. If it's bad, we also know where that comes from. But anyway, and so I was like, no. And I thought, okay, I don't cook, I don't bake, I don't know how to do all that. I've just always worked. But I thought, so if I made candy or something, she might think I poisoned it. So we don't want to do that. Should throw it away, and it'd just be a lot of work for me. So I was like, no, God, Well, we had butchered a beef, and I had all this meat in my freezer, and I thought, well, I guess I could take her some beef. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to take my steaks. Hamburger, maybe, So we did. We gathered up a few packages and took them, and somebody said, why are you doing this? And I said, only because I know God wants me to do it, and it has nothing to do with me. I still don't know why I had to do it, but I knew. So if you have that heaviness, or that you feel compelled that there's something you need to do, you just need to do it. Don't even waste time thinking about it. Just do it. If it's good. If it's not good, then don't respond that way. But for me, it's that simple. It's just, you just know. Mm-hmm. And it's not always something you want to do.
Yeah.
Or if you've ever harmed somebody, or you've talked badly to somebody, and that weighs on you, and you've got to go back and make amends, or, just get it over with. It gets it out of the way, and then you're free to do what else you may want, or what maybe you want. Does that make sense, Russell?
It does.
I don't know.
And for a while you were leading a recovery center for people that had addiction issues, drug and alcohol addictions. And you said that was great because it felt more like a mission.
Yep.
Talk a little bit more about finding a mission. Like how does that work? Or how did you know this is a mission? This is like that kind of...
just knew. I just knew that that's where I was supposed to be, and that was what I was supposed to be doing. The immense joy that it gave me when I saw somebody's life change, when I saw somebody be able to reconnect with their family or just reconnect with God. Immense joy. And the sadness, the hurt sometimes was so much that you just knew somebody had to stick it out. You had to keep trying, because I used to tell my staff, you never know when somebody's going to get okay, when they are going to choose sobriety. We could take bets when somebody would come in that, you could say, this person will never make it. And by golly, they might, or they did. Mm-hmm. And somebody else would come in and you would say, oh man, they're inspired, they're gonna, and they wouldn't. And I saw a lot of people die from the disease of addiction. And I still have a real passion for it. I have so much respect for the programs in Cape and in the area that I know, Teen Challenge, Gibson. I mean, the work they do, I think, is just vital. Mm-hmm. And if we used to say that one addict can affect many, many people, because it's not just their family or not just society, it's the hospitals, because they have more problems or they're in accidents or what, you can just take it and just go all the way down the list, and it affects everything in our community. And so I think it's just a tremendous opportunity for people to really change and to have joy in their life. And some of the people that were successful, I can see them somewhere, and it's just like, oh my gosh, look at that they're just happy and life's good, and their kids are better, healthier,
Nice.
Because none of us chose where we were going to be born. And that's a reason. There's a reason to that too. I needed to be with the mother I had, because she was a Christian, and she was determined, and she was a strong woman. And I don't know why you all were born to your parents, but you were given to them as a gift. And sometimes parents are really creepy and they don't do good things, and some children really suffer, and exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're in a mission field, that.
Yes.
And you kids have this opportunity to be at Prodigy, which to me is just amazing. I wish I'd have had a Prodigy to go to, because I probably wouldn't have been in near as much trouble, and I bet I'd learned some stuff about math and history, and I'm pretty sure I was ADHD, and I'm pretty sure I have some learning disabilities. And so, but they didn't diagnose that, and particularly in girls back in those days. We knew the boys that were in trouble, because they couldn't sit still, and they were in trouble, and they were shooting, paper wads and throwing stuff in the classroom, and the story. But the girls, we hit it better, I think. But I do believe that everybody struggles with something. And if you can remember that you're created in God's image, He knew you before you were born, so you must be pretty perfect. Because He didn't make any mistakes. So when people get down on themselves, or they get caught up in addiction, or they get caught up in other issues, and their life is spiraling out of control, there's a way back from that. And I think I was blessed with that multiple times, because I'm so hard-headed.
So you just mentioned that you are hard-headed. So how do you think that has helped you to grow as a businesswoman, and how else has it hindered you to grow?
I think it's been beneficial at times by having the perseverance and continuing to keep on when things looked really bad, or when things were really difficult. And I've had a lot of struggles, whether it's in the business or whether it was in wherever. I think it has also cost me a lot. I think sometimes when you don't get the balance in your life to not become obsessive with whatever it is you're doing, and you take breaks and you take trips or you relax. So now that I've retired, I sold my company 2 years ago. So I've been in Florida for on and off for a couple of years. And so instead of going down there and relaxing, I've gutted a house and redone it. And I've told everybody, don't let me do this stuff anymore, because I was worn out. And then physically, I wasn't feeling well. And I think I don't know how to retire. I don't know how to just relax, because I always feel like I have to have a purpose. I think I was driven and felt like I needed to be producing, needed to, I don't want to sit around and be a slug. So I don't have all that figured out yet, but I think part of that hard-headedness has got to change, and I've got to understand what is important, where do I put my energy, and where do I say no. And I'm learning. I don't think I have a whole lot of time left, but I need to learn it, I guess. I think God wants me to learn that too.
We just, at the beginning of our school year, we just heard a talk from a guy named Craig Rochelle. He's a leadership person, leadership mentor, nationally recognized. And one thing he said in his talk was create your to-don't list. The
that's good.
Things that you're not going to do because someone else can do it.
I'm not going to file. I'm not going to alphabetize. Those things I mentioned earlier.
Well, actually, would you elaborate just a little bit on how do you, when you choose people that would work for you to fulfill things you wanted them to do, how would you make those choices? What would you look for in people?
Well, first of all, if I was hiring to my weakness, I would go after whatever those skills were that I needed. Mm-hmm. Communication was vital. Personality, I needed people with personality. I needed, years ago we used to do aptitude testing to decide what students or children or whatever needed most in placing them in college or vocational schools or whatever. It was on aptitude. And at one point I said, what's wrong with looking at attitude? I feel that attitude's probably as important, if not more important than aptitude, because I think people can be taught and trained to do stuff, but they gotta have that passion or that desire. If you put somebody in a factory that needs fresh air and needs excitement, they're probably not going to be real successful. But if you put somebody in a factory type job that's the same every day, doing the very same thing, and they're made the way that handles that, they'll probably thrive. That's and this stuff isn't in textbooks, so we're not going to find it there. It's just stuff that's up here in my head. But I think if you try to take somebody and put them in a round circle and they're a square, you can't do it. You got to break it. And I don't think we should be breaking people. And I think, remember, what was the name of the guy? Leo Buscaglia did a book on seagull. What was the name of it? Does that ring a bell at all? And it basically talked about you can't take children. If they look like a duck, walk like a duck, and talk like a duck, they're a duck. And this seagull, what was
Jonathan
the book?
Livingston
Seagull. Yep, see? It's a good thing he's got a memory. And that was a great book because you want kids to be able to thrive and to grow and to be what they are and who they are. Yeah. But when you try to make them all fit, and that's why Prodigy is such a wonderful place, because you guys are given the opportunity to express yourself, to find your purpose, to be loved and cared about in a wonderful environment. I mean, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to start on public schools. I'm not going to do it. Okay. So that's probably the end of that discussion.
Help
me out.
I have another
Help me
question,
out.
but if you guys have one, I'll defer. But my question is, as a person who started a business, took a major turn in your career to go from medical to supporting people at the recovery center to starting your own business with signage, emergency signage, safety signage, and you'd never done anything like that before, and you did it. That's risky. And tell me a little bit about you with the way you think about taking a risk and any occasions that you failed, and how do you deal with failure. Talk a little bit about that risk and failure.
I don't think you can be successful if you don't fail. So I think you have to fail somewhere, somehow, some ways to be able to grow and to learn how to do success. And I've seen a lot of persons that could be very successful, but they would sabotage their own success. I've seen people who struggle with failure and never figure out how to be successful. So it's a lot of different, for me personally, when I would fail, I would try to look at, well, what could I have done differently? You know, is there a different way to do this? And I tend to always look at everything and go, okay, well, so here's the big picture, and then I try to break it down into steps or segments, because sometimes it's hard for me to get the details if there's something I don't want to do. But I could always figure out the process of picking something apart or doing whatever, and then I would hire people who had the aptitude and attitude to do, say, contracts. And then I would teach them how we wanted to do that. And the girl who's still doing it is amazing at it. She knows more than I ever will, because she just kept growing and learning, and I'd put her up against a lot of attorneys. But anyway, or if you have a situation that you need to fix, then how do you go about fixing it? Sometimes other people can share ideas, but sometimes you'll just know, well, you got to do this, this, and this. So then if you do these things, then... And so I think failure can be very advantageous. Success feels good, but sometimes you don't even know that you're really being successful till way down the road.
Sometimes it's like trudging. You're just taking the next step, the next step, the next.
But at some point, if something's not working, stop and look at it and figure. I'm going to take a big leap out here now and say this. I've seen a lot of small businesses that don't work, or they continue doing the very same thing, knowing that they're not being successful, or knowing that they're not making enough money to really keep the bills paid or whatever. And I've tried to help some small businesses, because I feel strongly that that's what this country is made of, is people being able to go out and create whatever they want to create. I would have never guessed I would be dealing with orange stuff on highway work. I mean, you know, it just wasn't kind of where I started. I understood the purpose of what we were doing was to hopefully make the traveling public safer, hopefully not creating more problems for the public. And it started, I was driving at night and it was raining and I couldn't see the lines on the road. So if a striping line went off in the ditch, I'd have probably followed it. And it was like, well, I think I could do this better than what this is. That's how it started. And we started with striping and the equipment. And the equipment took off and the striping ate my lunch. Well, I didn't have anything to bankrupt because we didn't have anything at that point. But it became obvious very quickly that we were not capable of doing striping. It was bad. It was really bad. And anytime I would sign a contract saying I would do these things, I had to do them. So I remember thinking, when winter gets here, maybe I can just shut my company down. And wondering if I had put us out on the street, my family out on the street. And that winter got there, and I had 2 or 3 little jobs that we had to maintain through the winter. So I couldn't close down. And the next winter I had the same kind of experience, and then it became obvious that I wasn't going to be able to quit. And thank God he kept me doing it, because it turned out he blessed us so abundantly. I mean, it's kind of obvious. But I've seen small companies that keep doing the very same thing over and over and over, and not looking at how do we streamline our company? How do we, maybe we don't pay every family member's insurance because we can't afford to do that. So would it not be better to pay the employees' insurance, make more money so we can keep people employed? Because you also, when you have a company, you also have a responsibility to your employees. And without them, I wouldn't be sitting here today. If they hadn't done their jobs and done them well, I would never have been successful, because I can't do anything on my own, very little. And so I think not stopping and analyzing where you're at and what you do, how you need to change things, is probably one of the main reasons I think businesses fail.
They don't pivot. They don't flex.
They don't even look, I don't think.
They don't pay
Just
attention.
keep doing everything the same as we've always done it this way. Well, if it doesn't work, why would you keep doing it the same way? And I think it's true in life. You know, we become habit oriented probably. And sometimes you have to stop and say, you know, like you girls are getting ready to go to college. That's a big step. Do you feel like you have to go, or do you want to go?
I want to.
You want to.
I want to go as well.
See, I think that's wonderful, because wanting to go and not feeling like it's something you have to do will probably give you so much. It'll give you a leg up right off the bat. And it's obvious you're both bright and you both want good things, and I'm excited for you. Don't take things too serious. Nothing's that big a deal. Sometimes we stress over stuff that doesn't mean anything. I was reading a book here the other day, and it was talking about trusting God more and having more faith. And it said, how often do you get up of a morning and do you go, gosh, I wonder if there's going to be enough oxygen in the air to survive? Or what if the gravity doesn't hold us on the earth? Those are big deals. If there's not enough oxygen or the gravity fails, we don't need to worry about anything. So when I read that, it was like, I never thought of that. I've never thought, is there going to be enough oxygen, or is the gravity going to be okay today? Are the stars going to stay in the sky? Is the moon, is the sun going to come up? But yet I could worry over, well, gosh, I don't have any cookies made for tomorrow. Or, I wouldn't make them. Why did I say that? Something like, well, what outfit are we going to wear? Or what, stuff that's just... I recently had a situation where I've stressed a little bit over something for 2 years. And it's a very unpleasant thing, and it's a very difficult thing. And it was resolved last week. And all of that worry for those 2 years didn't make one hell of a bean's difference. Didn't impact it whatsoever. So how many hours did I give thought to that? Did I let that occupy space in my head for it not to have meant anything or done anything? So, but you can't do that kind of till you get older, because you guys are so young. but start trying to just think, is this really worth spending the energy on? If you can't fix it, if you can't change it, if you can't impact it, then it's not worth worrying about.
Do you guys have situations that you sometimes get stressed or worried about things, or are you pretty good at just...
They're teenage girls, of course they do.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I do. Of course.
Of course.
Mainly school and work and future. That's the big thing, is future, because it's coming no matter what you do. So, and we got to pay for our future, and that's a problem.
Yes. And that's real stuff. So all you can do is take whatever steps that get you. You've already made application to school, right?
So, almost.
Okay. But I mean, there's certain steps that you could make a list and go, I've got to do this, this, and this. And if it's something you can't do, or you can't do it on your own, don't put it on your list. Because just pray about it. There we go. It sounds like my mom. Turn it over to God.
Oh my God.
Or call me.
You probably do mentor some people. Have you ever had somebody that mentored you that you thought... I know your mom was a huge
Oh, I'm
investor.
sure I did. I'm sure over the years there's been people that have impacted my life a great deal. I had an English teacher that I just adored, and she was so cool. But for the most part, I think I shared this earlier, and I shouldn't share it probably, but I felt like I was just not normal, because most people just went to school and just did well, and they made the honor roll, and I didn't. But I really liked the social part of school. I just didn't like classroom. You know, I'd prefer, just getting with my friends. And I think I struggled with that a lot. And then going to nursing school, and that was somewhere I was really interested, so I did well there. So again, aptitude and attitude are important, because I've loved sciences and I loved all that, but boy, I didn't care for chemistry, I didn't care for math or history, but boy, I like science. So I think a lot of people have impacted my life. I've been very fortunate to have good people. A lot of good people. There was a gentleman that I used to rent the big message boards and arrow boards, and he has no idea how much he's helped me over the years. And I say to him, "You helped make me successful," and he'll be like, "No," but he was just great. He told me one time, "You gotta buy a new truck," and I'm like, "I don't have the money," and he's like, "You gotta buy one. Your truck's eating you alive." And I'm like, "I don't know how to buy one if I don't have the money." He said, "Just do it." And I went and I borrowed money and bought a new truck, and it saved me $12,000 in repairs that year. I had spent $12,000 the year before on the truck. And you had to have good transportation if you're committing to be somewhere to, say, change traffic on the highway or something when you've got to be there. So he was great. His name was Mike, and he was such a good help. And then I had really good vendors that I had relationships with. And they knew they would trust that if I said I'm going to pay on time, I pay on time. And so whatever business you're in, whatever you do, just honor your word. Because I think that's becoming harder to find. And I think that's really important. But if I can help either one of you, I'd love to. Because it's tough. You're getting ready to have life changes that you've never experienced before, and it's got to be frightening at times. But if you really believe you're going where God wants you to go, you don't have anything to fear.
I love that.
And I know you're going, because you're talking about mission work, and you're going to do mission work too. It may look different.
Yeah.
But everything we do should be mission work. Everything we do should be some way to honor God. And I'm not perfect in that area, but that party that you all saw the video, that was a lot of fun. But maybe it wasn't just honor God. I enjoyed it. And I think he wants you to have a good time too. I think he's got to have a huge repertoire of jokes and humor, because I know some really funny people that I think are godly.
Well, that's something since knowing you, I've always recognized that you enjoy yourself, and you make it a point to do that, which kind of lifts the moods of everyone around you. It's fun. And also, like your sister said, Sharon said that you go out of your way to make the people around you feel important. And she said in that way, you're like a people magnet.
I don't see that, but thank you for everybody thinking that. I just have a good time. I try.
That's good.
When you're old, you got to hurry. I don't buy green bananas anymore. Good grief. I have to tell you a little bit about Russell. We have a craft room downstairs here at my house, and we sometimes paint and do different things. And I have no ability, but I have people that really are good. And Russell, one night, painted a picture, and watching him gave me such joy, because he was totally relaxed and just digging it. And it's a beautiful picture. I have it hanging downstairs.
Huh.
And I thought, if it doesn't do anything more for people than just have a place to chill out and to kind of relax and get away from the stress. We haven't done it lately. We should.
We should do that again.
Yes.
It's refreshing to me. I like being creative.
He's very creative, as you all know. And you know that, John. He's very creative. And I think that's another thing I do want to say. No matter what you do, don't ever have so much pride that you can't delegate. But know what you're delegating. And if you're responsible for something and you're giving that task off to somebody else, make sure they know how you want it done, and then expect that. Don't give duties over to somebody that can really be hurtful to someone, or it can collapse something. I don't know. Pick and choose what you delegate, but don't hang on to everything and think that you're the one that has to do everything. That got me in trouble a lot, because I would be like, I've got to do payroll. I've got to do I didn't know how to do payroll, but I did. And then I'd redo it and redo it and redo it. And it was insanity. My accountant couldn't do it in no time. It would take me hours because I thought I had to. So knowing when you don't have to do something, this might be for you to hear.
I hear it.
Okay.
I'm learning. I'm on a learning curve with that, but I do. These days, I'm surrounded by such capable, skillful leadership people that
because you're choosing.
It's easy for me to say, "Here, you got it."
Yeah.
It's great.
But it's very freeing when you reach the point where you can trust other people to do things.
Yeah.
And know that it'll get done. And almost nothing that we do, except in being a nurse, that could be life-threatening, giving wrong medication or doing wrong whatever. But most things are not life-threatening. Most things, you can make a mistake and it can get corrected. Mm-hmm. So don't put so much pressure on yourself that you have to be perfect and do everything always correctly, because you're not going to. And it's okay. I'm an example of not doing most things correctly.
I like that. Well, a takeaway for me from this time with you is be willing to recognize what's working well and keep doing it. And if it's not working very well, then don't do it. Do it different.
Change it.
I love that.
Analyze it.
It's simple, but it's effective.
One of the other things I want to share that's just in my head, God sent me people to hire. I would never have expanded my company if God hadn't sent me the people. And people have laughed at that, but it's the truth. I knew that I needed to expand to Kansas City or Springfield or Carbondale because he sent me people.
Yeah.
why else would I meet them and they wanted to go to work for me? You know, or, I mean, I wasn't planning on expanding, but when he sends you people that can do what you need done and they want to work with you, it made
Expand.
sense to me. So he will send the right people for relationships. He will send the right people for whatever. You'll be in the right job doing all those events. I kind of like to start something like that, maybe. No, I don't want to work that hard. I know. I got to quit. I got to quit that stuff. You can cut that all out, too.
Well, thank you. Thank
Well,
you for
you're
taking
welcome.
time.